Well, Philip Healy, Executive Director of the National Automotive Roads and Fuel Association. First and foremost, I'd like to thank the Virtual Propane Expo and the team for enabling us to have this time today to speak about something that we feel brings incredible value to the industry as a whole, which is our multiple employer pension program that enables our members to really combine together in buying power to get access to best-in-class service providers at rates that on a standalone would just not hit the marketplace. We have been fortunate to work with our team that we have here today. And the reason we entered into the space of getting in the retirement was we wanted to provide best-in-class, not only administration, access to funds, but also education, and on top of that, independent fiduciary that represented the owners and their best interest to ensure that this was best in class at the best pricing with the best partners available. So we're excited about this, and Graham, happy to turn it over, and thanks everyone for taking the time.
Thanks, Phil. Hi, my name is Graham Murray, and I'm a retirement benefit consultant with Merrill Lynch and Bank of America. Joining me today is Tim Pruitt, who is a retirement specialist from Transamerica. Tim's been our partner and helped us launch this plan, which has been in place now for about 2.5 years. When Phil came to us, he asked for a simple solution to offload 401k plans to plan sponsors. So today we're going to talk a little bit about what you currently may have, which is a single employer plan versus a multiple employer plan, how the administration will change, how fiduciary risk management will be offloaded to third parties, best-in-class investments, the one-on-one employee education on-site that my team provides, as well as a very competitive pricing arrangement for plans of all sizes.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Tim Pruitt. I'm the Regional Vice President for Transamerica here in New England, and I'm supporting and have been involved with the NARFA multi-employer plan for since inception, which was mentioned just about roughly 3 years ago. It's been a great program to work with. Phil's been extremely supportive of the effort here, and I think we've had, and despite COVID, we've had a lot of success with the program and getting it to a really nice spot in the first couple of years, and we're obviously looking forward to continue to grow it over time. So I think the agenda for today is really to kind of move through just a couple key items over, let's call it the next 20 minutes, and then leave maybe the back 5 to 10 minutes of the half hour here for questions for Graham and myself. But what we thought we would do is just kind of do a quick rundown of what is the difference between a single employer plan and a multi-employer plan. What are some of the administrative functions and fiduciary, I would say, risk management or liability that can be offloaded with the multi-employer plan that sometimes just cannot be offloaded in a single employer plan? A quick couple thoughts on the investment world and ways to kind of take advantage of some investment products that exist in the NARFA program. To Graham's point, what does the education effort look like with Transamerica and Merrill Lynch? And then finally, just talking about the economies of scale that Phil touched upon at the onset there. So with that, let's jump in. Graham, I think we're going to do this together, but I'll start us up here.
With a single employer plan, obviously the plan sponsor, which is the business owner, has all the fiduciary liability. In some cases, they offset and put the trustee duties to a third party. You bear all the administrative costs. So your average account balance really drives what your plan costs are going to be. If you're over 100 employees, you're going to have plan audits, plan design changes, all those different types of potentially consulting. The TPA may be charging you to talk about plan design, and education and enrollment be as good or as bad as your partner that's providing that. One of the things that I think is been stellar by working with Tim and Phil at NARFA is this past year, when all businesses were virtual, we did 4 education events for all the participants in the plan. So if in the past year you haven't provided any type of education, you haven't met your education needs of having a plan, and that's a big issue that may be hurting you moving forward.
Graham, to that point, and I'll continue to progress the slides here, but to that point, something that is continuing to become a bigger and bigger, and I don't even want to call it trend anymore. It's really, I think, a component of the 401k industry that's here to stay is fiduciary outsourcing. So to the best that you can, a lot of business owners are now becoming very familiar with, what the responsibilities and liabilities of being a fiduciary are. And I think, what we've seen in the multi-employer plan world is a very cost-effective way to outsource liability. So let me just kind of progress us here. If I could, the benefits of the pooled employer arrangement through a multi-employer plan is kind of pulling assets together from a number of different organizations, and we'll touch upon at the end how there's economies of scale and buying power that come along with that. But also what comes along with it is the ability to negotiate and deliver better administrative support. So whether it's, sometimes what a lot of business owners and their HR staffs have felt is cumbersome activities of distributing all the legal notices that come along with the 401k program, who's signing off on distributions, who's making, I would say accurate decisions around when money's going back out of the program, enrollment tracking, eligibility tracking, and making sure that's happening correctly. Notifying employees the moment they become eligible to join the plan. All items that are now shifted over to Transamerica, the 316 firm Compass, and Merrill Lynch through the NARFA arrangement. And for those of you that might be out there that are going through a plan audit, this is now something that that is probably of utmost interest to you. If you happen to join the NARFA program, you no longer will be subject to an annual audit. That is something that is now, removed from your annual responsibilities, and potentially, obviously, from a cost perspective, those audits can get a little expensive. That's something that we now shift, and that the MEP is kind of effectively handling for you. So again, the benefits of the multi-employer plan are really everything that you see here. Negotiated better services, costs, come along with that, and obviously some professional partners that are servicing the program.
And I think, Tim, the other thing that just talk about is the fact that they no longer have a 5,500 filing. The filing is filed by the association. One of the slides that Tim just kind of skipped through was administrative offload. And what does that really mean? That means that as a normal single employer plan, you're responsible for everything. And at the end of the day, it may be somebody within the organization that really doesn't understand what a retirement plan is, or all the fiduciary liability and all the accounting responsibility that's in place here. What Phil and his team at NARFA has done is established a way for you to offload all that. He's hired Merrill Lynch as fiduciary on the investments. He's hired Transamerica as a record keeping team. He's hired a 316 to oversee all the administrative movement of the plan. That means from payroll submission to loan submission to statements to filing a 5,500 on a plan level to performing an audit on a plan level as well. So if you're a business owner, your HR team can be focused on things that probably are going to really drive revenue, like education of employees, looking at healthcare benefits, working on morale in the workplace, providing other services, and not working on trying to enhance a benefit that you're putting out there that can actually be your biggest liability as a business owner. Because as we all know, the DOL is walking around looking at audits of all sizes in the retirement space right now. Through most retirement plan providers, you obviously, there are rules with regards to timely submissions, inaccurate calculation of employer plans, tracking of employees' eligibility, vesting schedules, plan provisions such as loans, how much is available for a loan, quadros, and the list goes on. Right now, if you have a retirement plan, you're responsible for all that. With this plan, the 316 and Compass, the actuary, are going to take on those responsibilities. So on a day-to-day basis, really what your job is to give us access to help enroll people, and then give us access to help educate. And then pretty much you step away. You do make sure that the payroll is set up correctly with your payroll vendor to make sure that the deduction's taken out. But after that, the payroll vendor works with the actuary to have the transition and the money ACH directly to Transamerica. So it really becomes a very passive process for business owners.
One of the areas before we kind of jump into investments, education, and then is the outsourcing of fiduciary liability and responsibility. So as Graham mentioned, the investment responsibility and fiduciary components of picking an investment lineup and monitoring the investment lineup and making proper suggestions for and documentation for future changes to the investment lineup has all been outsourced to Merrill Lynch. So Merrill Lynch is acting in what's called a 321 co-fiduciary capacity, and effectively, responsible for the investment lineup and maintaining it and making, proper investment decisions for the future. So that's something that is clear benefit. Only roughly in the single employer plan world, roughly only 40% of single employer plans in the United States are utilizing an investment fiduciary today. So clearly a significant advantage to partnering up in the NARFA multi-employer plan. On the administrative side, something that has been negotiated and offered by the NARFA program is the use of what's called a 316 administrative fiduciary. So the 316 administrative fiduciary services are being offered by a firm called Compass Retirement Solutions. And Compass is effectively acting as an administrative fiduciary for all things administrative. So whether it's notice delivery, notice communication, distributions, loan processing, timely contributions, connecting, the payroll source with the, getting the contributions uploaded as quickly as possible. Those are all being handled by Compass as a 316. And if there were to be a fiduciary breach and they were to not deliver on those services and there were ever to be any sort of legal action, Compass would indemnify the plan sponsor for any legal costs associated with the fiduciary breach. So I think that's something that we're seeing more and more of, is the 316 services being offered in the industry. But to kind of put it in some context, there's only roughly 7% of plan sponsors in the United States today are outsourcing or utilizing a 316 administrative fiduciary today. So I think that's a pretty significant advantage that the NARFA map offers, again, with outsourcing as much liability and responsibility as possible as it pertains to proper fiduciary governance of the retirement plan.
The investments. So currently, platform that we're utilizing has a series of indices. So you have a S&P 500, a small cap, and a mid cap index. So for those that believe in passive investing, then we also have a number of about 15 actively managed equity and bond funds, so that people can pick and choose between names like Vanguard and American Funds and Columbia and Janus and Alger. So all household names in the investing space. And then finally, we set up a series of target date funds utilizing American Funds. And one of the things that I've actually talked to many of the NARFA members already is to do a target date analysis. American Funds does an extremely great job kind of showing you risk and rewards, benchmarking the American Funds target date fund versus potentially the Fidelity target date funds, the Vanguard target date funds, T. Rowe Price. And historically, over the 10-year period on a $100,000 value, $100,000 account, American Funds is returning anywhere between $11,000 and $17,000 more than across their peers. So long-term, American Funds, because of the downside protection they offer, has done an extremely great job protecting both plan sponsors and their plan participants getting ready for retirement.
So one other, before we wrap up the investment thoughts, there's a final feature that Graham and I wanted to mention on the call today, is a feature that's available at no additional cost. We call it Portfolio Express at Transamerica, and it's a complimentary service that's available to all plans of that are utilizing the NARFA program. And again, to kind of frame this for you, there's about just shy of 200 participants from all the different organizations that are utilizing the NARFA program today. And roughly, about 30, I think the last count I saw was 34 participants are utilizing this Portfolio Express service. But what this service does is it allows an individual participant to interact with us in Transamerica virtually and effectively via our website answer two questions that apply to them. Number one is, when would they like to retire? So they'll have choices that'll be in 1-year increments. And then what risk level are they comfortable with? So are they comfortable with a more of a conservative risk tolerance? Someone maybe that may be on the opposite end of the spectrum, maybe a little more aggressive, or someone in the middle on the moderate side. So in just answering those two questions and then agreeing to the service, the participants are properly, I would say, diversified based or asset allocated amongst the selection of investments that are offered in the NARFA program based on those two criteria. So if someone is 33 years away from retirement and aggressive, they will receive a particular allocation. If someone is 21 years away from retirement and conservative, they'll receive an entirely different allocation of investments to the NARFA program. And I would say the main reason I find this service to be extremely beneficial, and I think again we've seen pretty good usage of it in the NARFA program, is there's a statistic that unfortunately is in the slide deck that we can't progress, but it references that we have, or that about 6% of participants reallocated their accounts in 2019. So all the participants that make up retirement plans in the United States, only about 6% went in and made an investment change. So I think that just kind of, will set the stage and let individuals know how important it is to offer great asset allocation tools or services that help people stay the course and get into the right allocation. Because once they tend to get into a plan, they generally don't make too many changes from their initial enrollment. So whether it's the American Fund target dates that Graham referenced or this Portfolio Express service, we have solutions that are designed to help with individuals that are much more on the savers rather than maybe investors, and we want to make sure they get into the right asset allocation. So I thought I would just touch upon that service before we break from the investment portion of the discussion. So
yeah, just kind of want to say one other statistic that, education and investments is extremely important. But at the end of the day, in 2019, only 3.6% of participants in retirement plans actually went in and changed their deferral. So, these types of tools that Tim's talking about, whether it be a target date or a model portfolio or an automatically rebalancing portfolio, is only half the story. It really is educating people and using the products that are involved and available on the website, as well as through education on making sure that you're going to be saving enough for retirement. Because in retirement, 80% of your current income is what you're going to need. And industry averages say you need to save about 10% a year. And right now, the average American is saving about 6.7.
Okay, so I think, Graham, the final two topics for the day, we're running up on 2:20 here, so we're going to leave a little bit for Q&A, are the investment education effort that yourself, myself, and Ron delivered over the past 3 years. And then the final thing will be the economies of scale of pricing, which we've already kind of spoken to, but we can just touch upon that at the end. So, Graham, why don't I let you speak to education, and I'll jump in at the end as well.
So whether it be Ron or myself or Paula Bannon, who's on the team, who's our bilingual specialist, we provide everybody a risk tolerance questionnaire because, as Tim said, the tool on the website that makes helps you build a portfolio needs your risk tolerance. So this simple 4-question questionnaire figures out your risk tolerance. And once you fill that out, then we can actually be financial advisors. We are all registered to give investment advice, but in the retirement space, we're fiduciaries. So you actually have to approach us. We can't look at your account and say, do this. We need to get a little bit of information ahead of time. So when we sit down and talk with a plan participant, we ask them to take a few minutes, fill out this questionnaire. It's very simple, 4 questions, no right or wrong answer. And that helps us figure out if they're conservative, moderate, aggressive investor. Then we take a look and say, do you want to build a portfolio yourself? Or do you want to use the Portfolio Express? Or do you say, I don't even want to figure out my risk tolerance. I know I want to retire in 20 years from now. So I'm going to be looking at a 2045 target date. So we try to keep it as simple as possible. But we're here and can be and build a portfolio that fits anybody's sophistication and retirement needs. But the most important thing we do is every 2 years we come back and talk to people about that risk tolerance questionnaire. Because when you're 20 and you're thinking about it, you've got a long time horizon, you can be aggressive. But when you're 50 and you're getting ready to retire, you probably shouldn't be aggressive anymore. You need to be thinking about de-risking the portfolio, how long you're going to live in retirement. Do you have other assets? And we have a ton of tools that we offer free to all plan participants on financial planning, retirement planning, and pulling in the big picture. You don't need to work with us with other assets, but we can incorporate that into the retirement planning tools that we have. So it's all one-on-one. We're on location at least once a year. If you want us on location more, we're there. When a new participant becomes eligible, Ron and myself get an email. We reach out to the HR director. We reach and say, do you want us to reach out to the participant directly, or do you want to make the introduction? Where we're going to walk everybody through enrolling and getting into the plan.
Great. And Graham, a quick reminder to the comment you made a little bit earlier in the presentation, but back in 2019, when I think we brought in 3 new plans, we had very much had a roadshow, right? I think we had spent a fair amount of time out in Cape Cod, up in New Hampshire, and around Massachusetts. So we very much like to get out and do these meetings in person, but when times changed last year, we shifted quickly and we shifted to virtual presentations and education sessions. So I think as obviously we move through 2021 and on into the future, we'll be delivering a combo of we want to make sure folks have have the let's say a comfortable place to go to get their questions answered and are feeling good about what the retirement plan is offering and delivering. I think the final component, again, I apologize again for the spreadsheet or the PowerPoint problems, but Phil touched upon this on the onset, and Graham and I did as well. But it's just, I think, and let's put some numbers behind this. We're approaching $20 million of assets in the NARFA program, which is I would say a great success for something that was really just launched only a couple of years ago. I believe we have 11 business owners or businesses utilizing the program, as I alluded to, about 200 participants. So if you're considering entertaining, I would say, or exploring the NARFA retirement program, that's what's been collectively built up over the past 3 years, and that's what you'll enjoy the benefit of if you consider exploring putting your retirement program into the plan. But certainly what comes along with this is economies of scale pricing, right? So you now are going to be joining a program that has $20 million of buying power, versus maybe your own plan, which might have $1 million or $2 million. So not only do you see, I would say, we would probably all argue significant cost opportunities and advantages of joining the program, but also some of those administrative and fiduciary outsourcing advantages that we touched upon earlier as well. A lot of those services just become much more expensive or cumbersome if you're trying to buy them on your own and you're not part of a program like this. So I think the economies of scale, component of what we're talking about today is an extremely important component, and one that I think would probably be a pretty obvious benefit of exploring the NARFA program. So I think that's the final thought for for what we had prepared. A couple minutes here for questions at the end. So please, I think we could take those now. And I know we have to get on.
I'm gonna hop on real quick, Tim, and just talk a little bit about kind of what a startup plan would look like from a cost standpoint and to a takeover.
Sure.
So I think the interesting thing is if you go out to your payroll vendor or you go out and you talk to Transamerica directly, you're looking at a probably $2,500 base fee to get into a 401k, whether it's 10 employees or 50 employees. Because of Phil's negotiation and the power of the association, you're looking at, probably 10% of that, $250 to $300 of annual fees to kind of get up and running. It's a $24 per head charge plus an asset-based fee, which gets charged to the participant, and you're able to get plan design complimentary. So there's a lot of benefit to joining a big organization to do this. And in the pipeline as we start to get back out and visit plans again, we probably have about $55 or $60 million of plans out there that we'll probably be looking to close in the next 18 months. So unfortunately, COVID closed the doors a little bit for us, and virtually business owners have been focused on keeping their businesses alive. So we've kind of left them alone, but actively, hopefully late summer, we'll be back on the road with NARFA and their team talking to more members and increasing participation. No plan's too small or too big to join the association, because the larger plan saves on the audit and the smaller plan saves on the startup. So great cost savings being a part of NARFA and having this plan.
Yeah, Graham, I think, from an association perspective, that's one of the things we found so important was irrelevant of person's size, they would be able to find value. And to think that they have access to the talent of Trans and Merrill is second to none. You guys were so quick to transition the level of service with COVID to virtual and never lost sight that the goal here was to educate the participant, get them involved, and run a compliant plan. And the membership that have been in it have been ecstatic. And those that are looking at it are excited about the opportunity and the services it brings and the economy of scale over time. So it really has been a wonderful thing for the automotive, roads, and fuel industry. We look forward to promoting it and growing it, and are excited about the future coming out of the pandemic. So I appreciate Tim and Graham's time. You guys are wonderful partners. And if anyone does have interest in looking at this program, we'd ask that they reach out to the virtual propane team, and they certainly will direct them in our way so that we can begin to walk them through the process of how it looks. So we appreciate everyone's time. And again, thanks for the participants. And NARFA signing off, virtual propane. Thanks very much. We appreciate everything.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Scott.